Do you feel that your home is Anchorage?
No.
Do you feel it's Bryan?
No. In a lot of ways, I don't know. I don't really. Home is kind of just wherever I am at the time. Sometimes is what I feel like. I think that's what growing up the way that I did. It's kind of hard to. I don't have a profound need to establish roots somewhere. This would be an interesting, like if someone were to do a sociological study of the long-term impacts of children who grow up in military homes where they move around. I'm wondering if one of the things is where they just don't get upset when they have to say goodbye to someone, whether it be in a job setting or a friend who moves away. It's just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, I just don't have any real deep desire to have these personal attachments that are going to break my heart if they go away.
Welcome to the East Anchorage Book Club. I'm your host, Andrew Gray. The purpose of this podcast is to tell the stories of Alaskans of interest and importance. Today, our guest is longtime legislative staffer Buddy Whitt. After a childhood of frequent moves thanks to his Air Force father, Buddy joined the Marines. 8 years later, he got out, went to college at Texas A&M, and then got a job in the hotel industry, which ultimately brought him to Anchorage over 20 years ago. He began working in the Capitol in 2017, first as Chief of Staff for Senator Shelley Hughes of Palmer. He later worked for Representative Kevin McCabe of Big Lake and Laddie Shaw of South Anchorage. He is currently Chief of Staff for Representative Jubilee Underwood of Wasilla.
Buddy Whitt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Where did you grow up?
All over. So my father was in the Air Force. He was a career Air Force officer. And I was born in Chandler, Arizona. And then we did the Air Force family thing where we moved all around. So he was in the Air Force from the time I was born until I graduated from high school. So my entire...
So were you moving every 2 or 3 years?
Something like that, unless he got an extension. So the longest we ever lived anywhere was from 82 until 88, and that was here in Alaska. So we came up from Florida in 82.
How old were you in 82?
I was 7.
Oh, you were born in 75?
I was born in 74. I'm 52. I'll be 52 this year.
Okay.
But we drove the Alcan in 2 Jeeps from Florida in 1982, and then fell in love with Alaska. Of course,
were you at J Bear?
At the time it was Elmendorf, and my father was flying T-33s, which are these old airplanes that they used to use to train fighter pilots, so F-15s, F-4s back in the day. But yeah, we were here for 6 years, and then we moved again. We moved from here to Panama in Central America.
And that would have been when you were about 13?
Yeah, that's about right, because I was going into high school when we left here. And we were headed down to Panama, and that's about the time where Panama was having some political issues. There was an election. Noriega was in control, and he nullified the results of the election and beat up the duly elected Democratic president and vice president, Guillermo Endara and Guillermo Ford, who won that election. He beat them up and
like literally had them beaten.
Oh, yeah.
Physically beaten.
Oh, physically beaten. Yeah.
Were did you guys get there before that happened, or were you there?
No, so that happened, and then the Department of Defense said, okay, we're going to close off Panama to dependence. So we were stuck. We got halfway there, and we were in Louisiana and staying with family near Barksdale Air Force Base. And then finally they opened it up to dependence. Kind of things had died down, and we got down there in like late summer of 1989.
And did you end up graduating from high school in Panama?
No, I went to a third high school. So I went to my freshman year was in Louisiana. I went to a private school. It was awful. I hated it. Then the next 2 years was at a Department of Defense dependent school system in Panama. And then my final year, we moved again. So we were down in Panama. We were there during the invasion to kick Noriega out. My father was involved in the planning aspects of that. By that time, he had transitioned over to more of a special operations intelligence area, and he was working exclusively on the things going on down there, the invasion, which ultimately happened in December of 89. When I got to Panama, actually, the first day of school, there was a bomb threat. They had to evacuate the school. And then there were several more. They were really harassing us a lot.
How many kids were at like that DOD high school?
Oh, it was a few hundred.
Okay, so it felt normal.
Yeah, it was a normal high school because it was all dependent kids.
Right.
You ever
And there was
remember
there were enough soldiers there, and there was enough kids.
Well, not only that, but you also had the canal zone employee dependents who went there as well.
Okay.
So yeah, on December 19th, the night of December 19th, 1989, I'm laying in bed and my mom comes and wakes me up. And I kind of remember hearing, I thought it was a thunderstorm, but my mom comes and wakes me up and I look up and she's holding my dad's clock. And she says, come downstairs and you need to see something. And by that time, I hadn't seen my dad in a week. Didn't know where he was, which wasn't unusual. But I come downstairs, I'm coming down the stairs, and we lived on the hill on Howard Air Force Base, which is on the opposite side of the Panama Canal from Panama City. And as I'm coming downstairs, I look out and I just see tracer rounds falling into the city. I hear helicopters. At one point, a helicopter came really low over our house in order to fast rope a Marine unit to the hill to secure it, make sure the dependents were safe. It was crazy. It was gunfire all night. You could hear it rattling off. You could see the AC-130 tracer rounds pounding into Balboa and Panama City. Yeah, it was nuts. And
were you well informed about like Panamanian politics and when you were in high school? I mean, I guess I'm just speaking for myself. Like, I not only wasn't really following politics, but I also really didn't follow what my parents did when I was in high school. I was very self-involved. So I'm just thinking like you would have had a different experience. Did you know what was happening?
yeah. No, we were very aware. Because of the position that my father was in the Air Force, we were constantly being harassed. And so when you're in that position, I was only a sophomore, junior in high school during that period. When it's affecting you directly, you tend to pay a little bit more attention, to what is happening and the dynamics of politics in the area. And the fact of the matter is, at the time, when you're living on base as an American citizen, and you're kind of watching from the outside because the politics of Noriega and a dictatorship, a military dictatorship, it, for the most part, while we were there, it didn't affect us directly unless Noriega wanted to affect Americans directly. And that's when he would call in bomb threats. He would have the Dignity Battalion have these little parades around the high school and in Balboa, these intimidating type of things. That's all there was to the politics. It was Noriega wanting to retain power.
So I'm basically the same age as you. I'm very familiar with the name Noriega, but like I just said, I was not paying attention to politics. Did we remove Noriega?
We did. So we invaded Panama on December 20th, 1989. Noriega, actually, I'm going to back off. I'm not going to talk about that. But there was a lot of work being done in order to capture or kill Noriega. The Americans did a lot of work on finding out where he would run to if we invaded.
And did he have control of the military? I mean, was the military loyal? They were loyal to him.
They were loyal to him because he was able to pay them. And so they had a job and they were making money, so they were loyal. That's all it took.
I bring it up because I just read King of Kings by Scott Anderson, which is a book that came out last year about the Iranian Revolution of 1979. And the problem the Shah had is that really he lost the trust of the military. And so it's interesting that Noriega maintained control of the military because...
Well, enough control. Now, there were a number of folks within the military who were not totally loyal to him. And that can just be proven by the coup attempt that happened in October after I arrived. Mm-hmm. There were members of the military who got together and wanted to try that. It failed ultimately, of course, and they were all executed. But there were enough that tried. But there were enough that were loyal to make it not something that could be... the regime change could not happen internally.
Mm-hmm. So where'd you go to your senior year of high school?
James Bowie High School in Austin, Texas.
It just seems like the worst. You know what I mean? Because I feel like your senior year of high school is like this celebratory time, your final year. So many folks have that experience of being with their friends that they've been with since childhood, and you do not have that experience at all. I imagine it would be really hard to make friends fit in as the new kid.
It was... I wouldn't call it difficult. It's never been difficult for me to having grown up the way that it is, it's not difficult to go in cold turkey and strike up a conversation. A lot of people, that's completely outside their comfort zone. I would say it was hard. It was hard because by that time I was just tired. Like I was tired of doing this over and over again, where we got to go to a new place. Okay, put the smile on and here we go.
I'm also curious, would you have wanted to stay and do your final year?
I would have loved to stay in Panama.
But there was just no option to stay for one more year.
No, federal government called up and told my dad it's time to go do something else. And we moved to Austin, Texas, and he was attached to a unit that then went after more bad guys. You know.
So you graduated from high school in Austin.
Correct.
Then what happened?
Well, I tried my hand at college.
Did you stay in Austin?
I did. So after I graduated from high school, I went. The original plan was to start off at Austin Community College and then transfer to Texas A&M. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm a Longhorn, so that's my school. Yeah.
Eventually, I want to go to Texas A&M. So it wasn't working for me. I just too many distractions. I had too many personal issues going on, and so I joined the United States Marine Corps, and I spent.
I have a quick question about that. So your dad, Air Force. Why the Marine Corps and not the Air Force?
Well, my grandfather, he was the Chief Master Sergeant of the 6th Air Force. And so I just didn't want to go that direction. I wanted to do something different, and that's the one I chose.
Okay. So you joined the Marine Corps. Were you 19, 18?
19.
19.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
It was awesome. It was a great way to get your willies out, so to speak. It was a growing up thing. Met a lot of some of the most amazing people over my life, and did some incredible things, and jumped out of airplanes and did all kinds of cool stuff. And
you joined in 93?
I joined in 94.
94. So it was after Desert Storm.
Correct.
Did you deploy?
I did not.
You did not?
No.
So how many years were you in?
I got out in 2001, just before 9/11.
Oh, okay. So you did
about 8 years.
8 years. I want to bounce back and ask about getting out of the Marine Corps right before 9/11. Did you
try to get back?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I tried to go back in, and they put my name in. And I said, "Hey, if you need me, I can." I wasn't a grunt. I was a rigger. Rigged parachute loads, personal parachute, cargo parachutes, things like that. I had also cross-trained into some other areas like supply, optics, mechanics, things like that.
Because you were still young. I mean, you were like 27, 28.
Yeah. I definitely could have gone back in, re-enlisted. I didn't want to re-enlist and commit for a full, because I didn't know how long this whole thing was going to last.
Right.
But at that time, I was on inactive ready reserve, and so they could have reacted.
But they didn't. Got it. And then what'd you do after you got out?
After I got out, I went to school. When I finished school,
Where'd you go?
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M.
And when I finished school, I went and started working in the hotel industry. And the goal was to get back to Alaska. As I figured, there's hotels everywhere. And so if I'm going to get recruited to go move to Alaska, I'll just work for a hotel.
Right.
And so I did that. And then in 2004, I got a phone call from Interstate Hotels and Resorts, and they owned the Sheraton in Anchorage. And they called me. I came up to Anchorage. I interviewed. And in 2004, I backed up my car and drove.
And worked at the Sheraton?
How
long did you work there?
A few years. They got tossed around different hotels for a while working, and then I got recruited to come work for the Armed Services YMCA of Alaska. And that happened because I was invited to be on the commissioning committee of the USS Anchorage. And I was on the commissioning committee responsible for the events associated with commissioning. And then I was able to hook up with the Armed Services YMCA of Alaska, and I was their executive director for 4 years before coming in working on the policy side for legislature.
So what led you to the legislature? How did that process happen? Who'd you work for first?
So I was on the other side of policy, right? So with working for a nonprofit, which I had never worked for a nonprofit before. I probably never will again. It was a great experience. But you see how the nonprofit side, how they advocate for policy was really interesting to me. I enjoyed that. Working with military members and their families, finding where there are gaps in services, where are there needs that are not being met that maybe it never occurred to anyone, those types of things. And then working on the policy side with Jay Bear, and then where applicable with our state officials, was very interesting to me. The problem solving part of that combined with human interaction and policy, I liked it a lot. And I wanted to do more of that and be more on the hands-on policy part rather than the nonprofit, we need help here kind of thing. And so that was interesting. I learned a lot about people on the nonprofit side. There are some great people in Alaska that really have a heart for Alaskans and for our state. And they put a lot of time and effort and heart when they could be making a lot more money in other areas. But they have a passion and a heart for the work that they do. And it's pretty incredible. We have a lot of people up here that fit that description. It's pretty neat.
I'm still waiting to hear how you got into this building.
So I went to work on a campaign with Senator Shelley Hughes at the time. Well, it was Representative Shelley Hughes at the time. And she was running for Senate against Steve St. Clair, who's now in the building, and Adam Crum.
Yeah, no, I mean,
And
so
we won.
I interviewed Shelley for the podcast a while back, and she talked about being involved in lots of special sessions and that Adam Crum was really gaining on her. And she believed that if he'd had more time, he might have beaten her.
It was close.
But but obviously she won. So yeah. So I guess that was your first foray.
That was my first foray into politics.
Okay. And that was 2018?
That was 2016.
2016.
Yeah.
So helped her on her campaign. Were you living in Palmer?
I was in Anchorage at the time.
Okay.
And then I moved out to Palmer later.
Okay.
But I started working with her, and I worked with her until...
And so she took you on the staff after that.
I came on as chief of staff and, drank from the fire hose like everybody else who spends the first year in the building. And then I just kind of took to it. So
you worked for her for how many years?
Until 2022. Went to work with Representative McCabe for a for a session. It does feel like semesters here sometimes. And then I went for Laddie Shaw. And then now I work for Julie Underwood.
In a general way, can you describe what it's like for a staffer going to different offices, like working for different bosses, basically?
First of all, I'll tell you what I tell everyone if I'm training a new staffer. The number one job of a staffer is to, of course, ethically and morally make their boss look as good as absolutely possible. As long as you do that, you're doing a good job as a staffer, making sure they're prepared, making sure they're on time, advising them when maybe something isn't the best thing to say. Anything and everything at your own peril, you are to make your legislator look good. If you key in on that, then everything else is fine. Now, every legislator is different, and every legislator is going to need assistance in a little bit of a different area in order to pull that off. And that's the job of a professional staffer to kind of recognize that. Yeah, I would say that basic general rule.
So one thing I learned my very first year when Nate Graham was my chief of staff, we were getting ready for a hard week, and it was the Friday before the weekend. And he was like, you're going to actually have to read some of these bills. I can't read every single bill and analyze every single bill for you and have every single question ready. You're actually going to have to do some work yourself. And I mean, I was a new legislator, and I needed to hear it because, I loved walking into committee and him having all my questions ready. And at that point, I don't even think bills were just kind of like reading the insert to a medication. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, no one reads this. Like, I don't read a bill. Like, it didn't make sense to me. I had no relationship with politics. So I don't know if you have had the experience of working for legislators who are doing the work and those where they're expecting you to do all the work for them.
Well, I have not had a legislator who has an expectation that all the work is done for them. I have had legislators who have an expectation for what is done to get them prepped, to help assist them, and and that could be anything from writing basically a bullet point synopsis of what a bill does, so they can go through it quickly, or just printing things off and having it for them. Now, I will say, I think what makes a really great staffer is someone who conforms to whatever their boss needs, but are also able to highlight items that maybe no one ever thought of or has seen. And those are really good staffers, like peppering them with questions that maybe no one asked. And that typically takes a team. Like, one person isn't going to think of every single angle to a piece of policy that you can come to it from. But a team, a staff who is actively engaged in policy review will do a great job of prepping you with questions and areas that maybe weren't anticipated.
So you've been in the building for 10 years.
Yeah.
What's different now than 10 years ago?
What really worked great when I first started was that Republicans were in charge. So I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. COVID really had a huge impact on how this building works. There's a stark contrast between pre and post COVID in this building. There still aren't as many people that come in.
So it was a much more crowded building.
Much more crowded. Staff and legislators, I think, interacted with the community a lot more. I remember shortly after I first started, might have been a year or two, in the playground right behind the Capitol building, it burned down. Like, there was someone came and burned it, and the legislators got together and we had a fundraiser so the city and borough of Juneau could rebuild. Those types of things where we are actively interacting with the community. We still have the receptions and things like that, but we used to have fundraisers for the community. We don't do a whole lot of that anymore. And I think after COVID, a lot of people are more come to work, go straight home, don't interact. And hopefully we'll slowly break out of that and, mingle a little bit more than we used to.
Anything I didn't ask you about that you wanted to talk about?
You're from Houston.
I am from Houston. Well,
Sugarland.
Not from Sugarland. I'm from Friendswood. James Kaufman and I are both from Friendswood. He is from on the other side of the creek from me, and so he went to a different school district. I was in Friendswood School District proper, which is smaller, and he was part of Clear Creek School District, which is much larger. He's also...
Is on the ridge side of the creek.
I was from the richer side of the creek.
Oh, you were?
Mm-hmm. I went to virtually, it was segregated. I went to an all-white school, basically. We played football with Lamarck, which was an all-black school. Next to each other. And I can only speak, I'm about 15 years younger than James. My experience of his school district was that it was a largely Hispanic population. I don't know if it was when he was there, but much more diverse. So he went to a much bigger school district that was much more diverse. But that just gives you a little flavor of where I grew up. It was very segregated.
And so when you left Texas to come here, was that your first time out of the state?
No. I mean, that's
relocating, moving.
I moved to Anchorage immediately after graduating from the University of Texas. But then I proceeded to move every couple of years after that until we moved back for me to take the job at the Alaska VA at the very beginning of 2017.
Okay. I'm just curious about what brought you up here. So most people that live in Alaska and they're from Texas, oil and gas brought them up. So when I meet someone who isn't in Alaska because of oil and gas, but they're not active duty military, that I get curious.
Yeah, no. So I read Into the Wild in college, and that kind of got me interested in Alaska. And then one of my best friends in college their mom had graduated from Anchorage High, now West High. And also I wanted to move someplace far away, and Anchorage was as far as I could drive, basically. And it was a really great experience. I'm still friends with people that I met the first day I arrived in Anchorage.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I was going to ask you about that as well. So you had essentially elementary and junior high here in Anchorage?
Yeah. So second grade to like eighth grade.
Eighth grade.
Yeah.
And where did you go to school?
Well, I went to Mount Spur Elementary on now Jaber, then Elementary Air Force Base. And then I went to Anchorage Christian School.
Oh, okay.
Which is now what? Mountain
City.
Yes. It was nice. I would have rather go to public school personally, but it's just me.
That's an interesting one. Like, so your parents didn't want you to go to public school. And I was going to ask some questions about that. So were your parents political?
Not really. No, I have a lot of members of my family who are. My parents are in the sense that we talk around the dinner table, but not in the outside the home sense, getting involved.
They're not like
They don't run
donating
things.
to campaigns and...
If they do, I don't know about it. It's like...
And where do they live now?
They live in Texas still. So
Austin?
They're in Bryan, actually, now.
But near College Station.
Near College Station. Yeah. So they were never really into politics, however, of an aunt and cousin and several people who were involved in Louisiana politics, which is a whole different, completely different.
Is everybody conservative Republican?
Not everybody. It's a mix. I would say most people are moderate to conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few of the other end of the political spectrum too. But we all love each other. We all get along. Just some subjects we don't talk about.
And do you feel that your home is Anchorage?
No.
Do you feel it's Bryan?
No. In a lot of ways, I don't know. I don't really. Home is kind of just wherever I am at the time. Sometimes is what I feel like. I think that's what growing up the way that I did. It's kind of hard to. I don't have a profound need to establish roots somewhere. I don't know if that's good or bad. And I also don't. Growing up, this would be an interesting, like if someone were to do a sociological study of the long-term impacts of children who grow up in military homes where they move around. I'm wondering if one of the things is where they just don't get upset when they have to say goodbye to someone, whether it be in a job setting or a friend who moves away. It's just kind of like, oh, okay. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's just one of those things that I think it came from growing up that way, is like, I just don't have any real deep desire to have these personal attachments that are going to break my heart if they go away. 100+ years ago, it was like, you're born in the house, you'll grow up in the house, you'll die in the house. It's your family's land. It has always been your family's land.
Well, and you more so than me. I was pretty much K through 12, in the same school. And there are a lot of people who still live in that town who graduated from high school with me. So I think I, more so than you, have this reference point of like, hey, there's a lot of people who graduated from high school with me who still could walk to the high school we graduated from, where I haven't been near that school since graduation day. Mm-hmm. Nowhere near.
After, I would say, it's in 2019, I went through a divorce. And in the process of going through that huge life-changing event in my life, I did some soul searching. One of the things I did is I did some travel. I went back to Texas and actually went to Austin, spent a couple of days in Austin, and I went back to my high school. Hadn't been back there, since.
But you'd only been there. You only went there for 1 year.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And went back and didn't even recognize it. Had zero memory of most of the things I saw on Slaughter Lane in Austin, Texas, where James Bowie High School is located. Completely foreign to me. Now, contrast that with my now significant other and I went back to Panama this past summer and went and saw Balboa High School, which is where the both of us went to high school. And
so you're...
Let me finish my story.
Yeah, sorry.
And I remembered all of it like it happened, I was there yesterday.
And you both went there.
Yeah. So right now, my significant other is my high school sweetheart from Panama. Her name was Rachel. And after I went through my divorce, we were reconnected. And she had gone through a divorce as well. And we've been dating for like 3 or like 4 years now.
Was she already back? Was she in Alaska?
No, we dated long distance. We got reacquainted through a high school reunion kind of thing. And she lives in Pennsylvania. And I live in Alaska, and I do session here, and then I go back, and we spend a lot of time in Panama and Pennsylvania and Alaska.
Where is she in Pennsylvania?
Just outside of Philly in Newtown Square.
That's really, really interesting.
It's really odd, isn't it?
It is.
You can say it. It's okay.
No, so
Every time I tell people this, they're like, give me a look like I have 5 eyes.
So you do Juno for session in Panama and Pennsylvania for interim?
Currently. And that will end probably next year when we'll buy a place up here in Alaska and live here full time.
So she's willing to move to Alaska?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Buddy, Whitt, thanks so much for being on the show today.
I'm happy to have done it. I was a little nervous.
You did great.
But thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, listeners. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review us. To contact me, email rep.andrew.gray@aklike.gov or call 907-465-4940.